Hello and welcome to the Voice of the People. I'm your host, Kenneth Murray Sr. I love enough to tell you the truth, and I respect you enough to give you the facts. God has given us the power and the knowledge to achieve whatever we are praying for. No matter the situation, no matter the opposition, we will prevail and be victorious because God is on our side. And as my favorite civil rights hero used to always say, you can pray until you faint. But until you get up and do something and exercise your faith, God will not drop anything in your lap. Thank you for joining us for this show for the Voice of the People. It is our intent to stimulate your mind, to think outside the box, and give you a different perspective. Some of you will agree, some of you will disagree, but I encourage you to think about it. This is a very important show. If I never do another show in my life, for the sake of the children, I want you to record this show or either let your children listen to it. And because Martin Luther King's birthday was last week, January the 15th, 1929, we celebrated that. Some folks did, some folks did not. But I always pay homage, respect, and honor to this greatest Negro minister, philosopher, and leader in my world, the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. I'd like to entertain you a little bit about Black History Month, and the title that we're going to talk about today and share with your family and friends is Knowing the Past Opens the Door to the Future, the Continuing Importance of Black History Month. No one has played a greater role in helping all Americans know the Black past than Carter G. Woodson, the individual who created Negro History Week in Washington, D.C. on February 1926. Woodson was the second Black American to receive a PhD in history from Harvard, following W.E. Du Bois by a few years. To Woodson, the Black experience was too important simply to be left to a small group of academics. That's important. Woodson believed that his role was to use Black history and culture as a weapon in the struggle for racial uplift. By 1916, Woodson had moved to Washington, D.C. and established the Association for the Study of Negro Life and Culture, an organization whose goal was to make Black history accessible to a wider audience. Woodson was a strange and driven man whose only passion was history, and he expected everyone to share his passion. His impatience led Woodson to create Negro History Week in 1926 to ensure that school children be exposed to Black history. Woodson chose the second week of February in order to celebrate the birthday of Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. It is important to realize that Negro History Week was not born in a vacuum. The 1920s saw the rise in interest in African American culture that was represented by the Harlem Renaissance, where writers like Langston Hughes, Georgia Douglas Johnson, Claude McKay, they wrote about the joys and the sorrows of Blackness. And the musicians like Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington and Demi Lucieford captured the new rhythm of the cities created in part by the thousands of Southern Blacks who migrated to urban centers like Chicago. The artists like Richard Bart and Louis Jones created an image that celebrated Blackness and provided more positive images of the African American experience. Woodson hoped to build upon this creativity and further stimulate interest through Negro History Week. Woodson had two goals. One was to use history to prove to white Americans that blacks had played important roles in the creation of America and thereby deserved to be treated equally as citizens. In essence, Woodson, by celebrating heroic Black figures, be they inventors, entertainers, or soldiers, hoped to prove our worth. And by providing and proving our worth, he believed that equality would come soon. His other goal was to increase the visibility of Black life and history. at a time when few newspapers, books, and universities took notice of the black community except to dwell upon the negative. Ultimately, Woodson believed Negro History Week, which became Black History Month in 1976, would be a vehicle for radical transformation forever. The question that faces us today is whether or not Black History Month is still relevant. Is it still a vehicle for change? Or has it simply become one more school assignment that has limited meaning for children? Has Black History Month become a time when television and media stack their black material, or is it a useful concept whose goals have been achieved? After all, few, except the most racist of the racists, could deny the presence and the importance of African American in American society. Or by then, 14-year-old daughter Sarah put it, I see Colin Powell every day on TV. All of my friends, black and white, are immersed in black culture through music and television. And America has changed since 1926. Is it not time to retire Black History Month as we have eliminated white and colored signs on drinking fountains? I will spare you the 3-hour lesson that I gave her about that topic. I would like to suggest that despite the profound change in racial relations that has occurred in our lives, Carter G. Woodson's vision for Black history as a means of transformation and change is still quite relevant and quite useful. African Americans History Month, with a bit of tweaking, is still a beacon of change and hope that is still surely needed in this world. The chains of slavery are gone, but we are all not yet free. The great diversity within the black community needs the glue of the African American past to remind us of not just how far we have traveled, but to how far we have yet to go. While there are many reasons and examples that I could point towards, let me raise 5 concerns or challenges that African Americans, in fact, all Americans, face that Black history can help address. The challenge of forgetting. We can tell a great deal about a country and by a people by what they deem important enough to remember. To create moments for what they put in their museums and what they celebrate. There are monuments all over this world celebrating war, but we need some monuments celebrating freedom and the spirit of exploring a higher quality of life. Let's take example, great moments in American history. One of them is slavery.